got rauma finull, and I swatched it on like all the needles. And we'll talk all about it, but before we do, the No Fear Knit Along first annual has ended, and we have a winner. Sandaled Mick 2? Sandaled Mike 2? I don't know why I'm seeing sandals, so I'm possibly going very astray. You could be German, I don't know. Congratulations! You showed no fear. You were totally petrified of doing a knit along, and you said, you know what, I'm gonna do it anyway. And you jumped into the Stephen West, which is no small thing for anyone who's ever done a Stephen West knit along. You never know what's gonna happen. Sorry, there's a person carrying a mattress outside the window. Congratulations. I kind of left the prize for this like 400 miles away, so get a hold of me. There'll be my email or my Instagram DM, either is fine, in the description box below, and we'll sort something out for you. We are going to continue, because why not, yeah? The No Fear Knit Along. Maybe you'd need an excuse to mess around, or you want to, but you just want somebody else around to say, no, it's cool, keep going. So we're going to keep going for another year. You can do it in conjunction with any other knit-alongs. It's not exclusive, it's not anything. Its only intention is to get you to not be afraid of knitting, to not be afraid of making mistakes, to try something that you think you can't do, because I'm pretty sure you can. I have been swatching rauma finull. I'm so excited about this yarn. I have wanted this yarn for I don't even know how long. It is a Norwegian yarn, for those of you not familiar. It's a sport weight. It's rustic, but it's pleasant. It's very pleasant, and it's lovely once it's been blocked. I'm not gonna call it like soft, but I'm gonna call it soft for rustic. And I would definitely wear this next to skin. I know a lot of people wear it next to skin, so your mileage may vary, but there's a good chance. 2-ply sport weight. This is the color 4125. Dark ochre, I believe, is the name therein. And it is so beautifully heathered. The depth of color that is achieved by whatever the base of the Norwegian, whatever kind of sheep the Norwegian sheep is, when you over dye that, it's incredible. It is a woolen spun yarn. Unsurprisingly, I love woolen spun yarns, as you know if you've been here before, and it is a non-superwash. So unsurprisingly, for a woolen spun, you get a lot of bloom, it really just fills out, and you get a lovely little halo thing going on as well because of this particular breed. But the thing that amazes me about this is how incredibly flexible it is. So a lot of the time, I don't know if this is true for you, but a lot of the time when I'm swatching, trying to figure out at what gauge the fabric is happy. And a lot of times there's sort of one where it sings. And there's others that it's fine at. It's not like it's gonna ruin anything, but there are some that it sings. And the crazy thing about this yarn is that it sings at a lot of gauges. Like a lot of gauges, which is impressive or weird or I don't know, but it's pretty cool. And it's unsurprising, I suppose, because when I was looking, because of course you buy yarn, right? And well, I buy yarn, and when I buy yarn, I start looking for a pattern, especially when I buy it in Europe, because this, by the way, a sweater's quantity cost me $21 US. So while I was waiting for it to arrive, which, you know, takes a little while, I was looking at what gauge it was often knit at, what patterns used it, that kind of stuff, to try to get a sense of what I might be able to do once it arrived and what patterns I might want to make with it, because I knew it wanted to be a V-neck cardigan. This will be a V-neck cardigan for myself. But beyond that, you know, I don't know. So I did a lot of research, and we've got the Woolly Thistle is a shop in New Hampshire, and the lovely woman who runs it, who also has a podcast, check it out if you haven't. She does a lot of yarn playing, which is good information to have, I think. She loves rauma. She has designed a sweater called the Vanilla Sweater, and it's a beautiful, simple, basic sweater, but the fabric of that sweater is lovely. It really seems, she wears the sweaters on all the vanilla sweaters of hers on a lot of her podcasts, so you get a really good sense of how it moves at that gauge. That gauge is 20 stitches over 10 centimeters, which is not my favorite. My favorite is 21, which is one of the gauges that Skein knits, who also really likes rauma and finull and uses it a lot. She uses it either at 21 or 24. I think I'm with her on that. So I was feeling good about shooting for those gauges. And at 21, is this? No, this is the 21. It's lovely. I'm gonna add some pictures as well, but because I don't know what I never know what you're gonna see from here. I guess, I hope. At 21 stitches an inch, it sings. There is something, it is very drapey. And it's drapey in a way that I'm almost concerned about, because if I want to throw it over a cotton t-shirt, I'm either going to wear it over a cotton t-shirt or a sort of, I don't know what the material is, but a tank top that I wear under sweaters a lot, like a base layer, and it's that active kind of material. That nothing sticks to, so there's no sticking. I don't know how, I've never worn a knit cardigan over a t-shirt. I don't usually wear t-shirts, but now I'm going through a phase and like they're everywhere. I don't know how that's gonna work. If you know, if you have an experience of woolly wools and cotton t-shirts and how that wears and how, does it get stuck on things? I feel like it's gonna get stuck on things, but I don't know what I'm basing that on. So if you have an idea about that, say something in the comments, let us know. Let me know. But it's really beautiful at 21, this is 21 over 10 centimeters. And 21 over 10 centimeters is not the same as 21 over 4 inches. Just, you know, I got a little short about it. It cracks me up. I don't know why they're used interchangeably, because they're not the same distance, and you can be off by like 2 stitches at a finer gauge. So that's not a small thing when it comes to sweater knitting. 21 over 10 centimeters, and I love the fabric. It is, I don't know why. I mean, this is 22 over 10 centimeters, which is a tiny little difference, and it's not like the fabric is bad, but it doesn't do that draw me in thing. Am I crazy? Possibly. I don't know. It's nice, but it's not, oh my god, I have to have a garment in this fabric immediately. I also knitted at 24. This swatch is not blocked, but this is 24.5 before blocking, and so I'm guessing it's going to be 24. The growth I'm getting is small. I can actually tell you exactly. The difference in gauge on the 5s, which is what I got, ended up with 21 over 10 centimeters, started out at 22.5. And the 4s, on which I got the 22, started out at 23. So I am reasonably sure this is going to end up, this is on US 3s, and you can't get a sense because I haven't blocked it, so, you know, it's curling like a crazy person. But you can definitely, obviously, tell the drape difference. That's pretty clear to start out with. This fabric is equally beautiful, and I'm on the fence. I know I'm going to use one of these two, but I don't know which one. So we'll see. We'll see. But I also was curious, because I don't double strand very often. If I want to use 2 different colors, or if I'm doing something with like a mohair, fine. But other than that, it doesn't occur to me, I guess, to see what a fabric is like with 2 strands of the same yarn. And I'm sure that rauma makes a worsted weight, or this is really coming up as an Aran weight, or possibly even a bulky weight. I'm sure they make something like this, so I suppose you just buy that. But there is a difference. Like, I recently knit a hat, and I ran out of the DK weight of Scout, Kellenborn Woolen Scout, and I substituted in a double stranding of the what is it called? Camper, which is the fingering weight version of exactly the same yarn. And the gauge is different. The gauge is definitely different. You can tell. It was a little bit denser. You can see there's a very slight ridge out where I switched from one to the other. It's barely noticeable. I don't really care. I'm going to keep the hat. I'm not ripping back. But so I've been looking at double stranding, like trying to understand, because it's not something I do. First of all, the fabric at this gauge is heavenly. There's something, I don't know why. It feels lighter than an Aran weight, but this is knit on 6.5 millimeter needles, US 10.5. And I feel like I could still go up a needle size and actually get a really great fabric, which is crazy. I love this fabric, and if I had the yardage to double strand it, a cardigan out of this, I would seriously consider it. Like, really seriously consider it, because, and this has very much less drape, so that's why I think you could go up a needle size if you wanted a flowier, yet still thicker garment. I don't know. So it's really interesting. Have you ever knit? Has anybody ever knit? I looked on Ravelry, and I could not find, I found a lot of color work, but I searched for high yardages, figuring that would give me possibly some double-stranded sweaters, and I couldn't find any, like, at all. Everything, if it was high yardage, it was color work. And which this would be a great yarn for color work, obviously, because it sticks to itself. Look at that. It's so you can steek with this, and I wouldn't think twice. So I obviously am ridiculously in love with this yarn. I have a type. I think we've established that I have a type, but I find it to be ridiculously flexible, and I find it to be obviously beautifully heathered. I don't know about the non-heathered colorways. I like muddy things. I like sort of non-bright. This is a bright color, but it's also not a bright color. And, oh, V-neck. I'm not a cardigan person, but I want a cardigan. So I'm going to make a cardigan. How or with what? I feel like I probably have to use the denser material. I feel like that's going to stick to t-shirts less. Am I crazy? Probably. I don't know. I feel like this will, and I kind of like the slight less, it's not like it's not drapey, but it's less draped, so I don't know. Then again, you want a cardigan to be drapey, don't you? I feel like I would want a cardigan to be a little bit drapey. I might end up going with this. There's also an interesting pattern at the 21 stitch gauge that I found that was not made in finull. It's a double-stranded fingering weight and mohair, but the construction of the shoulders is a really interesting saddle shoulder. It's sort of a saddle shoulder that almost appears like a set-in. So I think it's really a set-in sleeve construction, but with a strip, instead of doing it all out of one. Because when you're doing a set-in sleeve, there's like a stitch where everything is coming out of, and it creates almost a seam that goes right along here, and then you increase for the arms. Basically, you're increasing for the body, and then you increase for the arms. And it forms that construction. And it's sort of doing that, but with a strip down the middle. So, and I've never done a saddle shoulder construction, I think. I understand them, but so I want to see how that's constructed. I want to see the difference. Could live with a raglan, but then I have to do the math, and I could use my calculator. It's not like I don't know how. I'm just feeling a little lazy, and I'm also feeling like I want something more a set-in. Either way, I could go for a set-in, I could go for a raglan, but I don't feel like doing the math on a raglan, and I can't find a modified raglan V-neck cardigan pattern. That's not a thing. So, unless you know of one. So, that is my deep dive into rauma. Soon, hopefully, I will have a garment out of this, and I will be able to show you more. That was the other thing. I forgot. I had another mistake. I'm going to have to do a cut and edit. Some of you might remember Girl Friday socks. Little experiment in 100% wool at a tighter gauge. And I did something really dumb. It is totally my own fault. It is not the fault of the pattern. It is not the fault of the yarn. Nor, I think, is it the fault of... Well, I'm just going to tell you what happened, and you'll understand. So, I got a pretty big hole. And I'm such an idiot. So I took them out of the wash, and again, for those of you who don't know, I do throw my woolens in the washing machine. I just do. It's not really a problem. It's never been a problem. It's still not a problem. I mean, they're a little on the small side. I might have accidentally hit warm, but they're, they're still looking great in general. I've worn these dozens of times at this point. And I took them out of the wash, and when they were still wet, you can see, possibly, that there's a little bit of felting going on. That there's a little bit of balling up and it's felting to itself, which is totally normal for me on socks. That's where, especially if I'm wearing my winter boots, which are a little bit too big, so depending on, I'm getting a lot of friction there. And I'm okay with the fact that I'm getting this little bit of pilling and then felting, because then it makes it stronger. So I don't have a problem with it. It's slightly less aesthetically pleasing, which is why I did what I did. But normally I leave it and I'm happy about it, because felted is not going to develop a hole, or it's going to take a lot longer. But these socks are so pretty that when I took them out of the wash and I saw the little bit of pill felting, I pulled it off. I didn't use a cleaner. I didn't know. I just ripped it right off. And when they were dry, I put them on, and that's when I got the holes. So I full on blame myself for this one. I really do think that had I not pulled off the thing, especially because it's lace work, this was a risk to begin with, was doing lace work instead of a, slip stitch heel or even a stockinette heel, because the stockinette on these is holding up beautifully. There's no nothing. It's really happy. So, combo problem that totally avoidable had I been thinking, had I turned my brain on. I don't know, winter brain, menopause brain, I don't know what's going on. I got a dog leg in my scarf, I'm pulling things off knitwear. Nonetheless, hopefully I will turn my brain back on and we won't have any problems. The other thing that I want to say about, because this is an unusual thing in that the pattern goes all the way to the top. So normally you would have the stockinette till here and then the pattern would start. This is not a problem in 9 out of 10 of my toes, but I do have one toe on one sock that is sort of right at the lacework. You could, when I'm wearing them, you can see it, and I think that's a potential fail point. So if I were using a superwash yarn with nylon, or a yarn with nylon that was like super durable, I would do this again. If I'm not using a yarn like that, I think I'm going to do a toe. It's not quite as pretty. These are so pretty and they make me really happy when I'm wearing them, but for longevity reasons, it's probably not smart. So for the future, there will be another pair of Girl Fridays in my future in this yarn, because I think I'm going to see if I can rip back and use the same yarn. We'll see how that goes. I might be lazy because it's very inexpensive yarn. I think a skein is $8 or $9. So we'll see how brave I'm feeling, how patient I'm feeling. But this was my mistake. I'm owning up to it. I'm sure some of you have done something as ridiculous, you know better, but you do it anyway because you're just not thinking in that moment, and then things go awry. So, but it's okay, because as I said, I really enjoyed knitting this pattern, so knitting it again, that's fine. And that's all I got. Thanks for watching. I'll see you later.